It's round 2 of the Formula One World Championship, and we've come to the hottest venue on the F1 calendar, but also to one of the most challenging and dynamic circuits in the championship. And as you join us here at Sepang, the cars and drivers just leaving the pit lane to form the grid for this Malaysian Grand Prix. Well, it's the most grueling test of the Formula One season for spectators and also for both car and driver. But it also has the potential to be an outstanding race in marvellous surroundings here at this new Sepang circuit, which is hosting the Malaysian Grand Prix for the 9th time. That amazing double-sided grandstand with the hibiscus flower roof. And it's a terrific spectator circuit, and they're in for quite a spectacle this afternoon in the heat of Sepang. Mid-30s temperature, mid-50s the track temperature out there, and for the likes of Jenson Button and everyone else around that grid, how do they keep cool, Mark?
This is going to be a grueling race for these guys. They've probably taken on between 8 or so litres of fluid to get hydrated before the race. They're going to be losing some 3 kilos in body weight after this event's taken place, and they've got about 600 millilitres of fluid in the car, and normally they take all of that.
Okay, well, there's still activity for Honda in the garage there, and so many question marks about how they're going to perform during this weekend and indeed during the races to come. But right now we can go down onto that grid with Martin Brundle.
Happy Easter, everybody. It's not just the ambient temperature, but it's the humidity and the fact that the track is 55, as Steve was just saying. It's like a radiator, just the heat's just boiling off it, and I'm sure the drivers will be pleased when they actually get going. You get a little bit of fresh air coming through the car, and finally you actually cool down because you're a bit sweaty. There's going to be some interesting tyre choices going on. I'd love to just take the cover off that Ferrari if they weren't going to disassemble me limb by limb and see what they've got on there, because it rained for 4 hours overnight and the track has been quite heavily washed. They're expecting it to be quite green. So maybe they'll go for the harder tyre. I think it could be quite critical to say. If they go for the softer one, they might be sliding around and just degrading the tyre. If you're in the midfield, you certainly should take the more durable option, because you're not going to be that fast anyway in the traffic. I'm going to try and get hold of Felipe Massa if I can, but he's kind of surrounded here by the whole crew having last-minute debriefs, and it's quite intense debrief as well. So something is going on. We're going to dive in there in a minute. It doesn't look quite right at the moment, but I may go and try and find Raikkonen if he's back on the grid. He just wandered off a little while ago. So did Fernando Alonso. Raikkonen's not on. Okay, let's try for Nico Rosberg then. Follow me, Matt. I'm going to go this way and just see if we can get a feel for what's going on the grid and what the drivers might be feeling they need to do. He's just down here, and Rosberg is over here in the shade, in the shadow, nowhere near his car. His car's over there, but there's just a little bit of shadow over here from this rather impressive looking grandstand. Nico, we just could do with a quick word really. How's the track conditions?
I have no idea. I just went very slowly on the outlap, so I have no idea. What,
just saving fuel, so you can't just give it a push, because it rained heavily overnight?
Yeah, well, that's the difficult thing when you're saving fuel. You don't know how the track conditions are. So I'm relying on my teammate, really. He gave me good information about how the car was, so I can adapt my front wing to that. So I hope it's right.
So because he's outside the top 10, he could put more fuel in, so he can give it one on the lap to the grid and give you some information.
Yep, that's the way it is.
And you've got to believe him and trust him. So what, you're just tuning the front wing on the ambient temperatures and that sort of thing?
Gotta go. Yeah, that's what you do, yeah.
Good luck. Let's... we got Kubica here. Let's have a quick word with him. We're live at the moment, chap. Are you live? I don't think you are. He's live, talking to his engineer. Robert, how's it feeling out there? Could you get a chance to feel the track on the way around?
No, we just cruise to the grid, just to, don't burn too much fuel, and we will see conditions on the first lap of the race.
So you're going to go on the hard tyres then, and surely because the track's changed so much, you're going to take a gamble?
We'll see. I think we'll start with soft ones.
You start with the soft ones? Okay, good stuff. Well, we'll see how that goes. Lewis Hamilton's by his car, but he specifically asked us not to bother him on the grid. So again, we're going to have to respect that. Hopefully he'll feel more comfortable as time goes past, and he's just here putting his balaclava and his skid lid is about to go on. We'll just get a quick glance there. But he's saying that I need to be in the zone before the start of a Grand Prix. And good luck, Lewis. We'll catch him another time. I hope we definitely get to see him when he's on pole position and get a quick chat. Where is Fernando Alonso? Has he made it back to the grid? I don't think so. The drivers, incredibly, some drivers are not even here on the grid. That's absolutely amazing. Let's have one more go then with Felipe Massa, and then we've got to get out of here. It's a long walk to the commentary box. Felipe, quick word. Congratulations, 5th pole position. You started at the back last time, the first this time. It's going to be quite a different race for you.
Oh, you're giving me already the congratulations for the next pole position because I did just 4.
Okay, I've got 5 in my statistics, but okay, take the next one as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so what's the strategy for you? I mean, Jean, can he race his teammate? Raikkonen leads the World Championship. Are you allowed to beat your teammate today?
Well, we're working for the team.
You are allowed to make good question as well.
I'm allowed to make good questions, that's right.
It's more difficult than for him to make the race.
Okay, well, I'll come and ask you, Jean. All right, well, look, good luck in the race and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Okay, it's back to you, Steve.
Well done, Martin. And of course, Mark, that is the fundamental question for Ferrari, isn't it? And tactics are going to play a big part because it's Ferrari against McLaren. First 4 places on the grid there. Fernando Alonso, who's on the front row for the 2nd consecutive race, but no Ross Brawn on the pit wall for Ferrari, reading and dictating tactics. Luca Baldesserio's got that responsibility. What might Ferrari be lacking in that area now?
Well, if you look at the first race that we had in the championship, there seemed to be nothing lacking, although I do feel that over the course of time they may get into situations where they miss the likes of Ross Brawn. He was a fundamental key player in the Ferrari team. I don't think there's any situation with team tactics between Massa and Raikkonen at this point. Obviously Ferrari as well, they have to think about the Constructors' Championship, Steve. They want both cars to be competitive at all times.
What about tyre choice? We have got one single tyre manufacturer now, but how do you read, say, the choice of Robert Kubica going on soft tyres from row 4?
Well, you know, it's difficult to understand in some ways because it really depends on the circuit and whether it's been too green, and if they get a soft tyre and it starts to grain, it could be a problem for him.
Okay, let's hear swiftly from David Coulthard with Louise.
It's seriously hot down here. David's helmet's just coming out of the ice box. Are you able to forget the heat once the cars get going?
You've got no choice. You know, this is what makes you feel like a Grand Prix driver when you have difficult conditions. So we just got to get on with it.
For once, we're going to be able to see which tyres guys are running today because of these new stripes around them. What pattern are you expecting to see? Because you're going to have to run both, aren't you?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a little bit split. Like in Australia, it was a bit more clear, but I think here it will be split. One tyre's clearly quicker, but has higher deg.
Thanks, David.
So Felipe Massa on pole position for this Malaysian Grand Prix, but for drivers like Lewis Hamilton who have never really experienced race distance in these conditions, what kind of grueling afternoon are they in for?
Well, he's going to be in for a tough weekend, but don't forget the situation. These big teams have got simulators, Steve. He would have already run race distances and they would have heated up the room, put a lot of temperature in there just so he can try and simulate what he's going to be doing in a cockpit now. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't factor in what really goes on inside the cockpit of a Formula One car during a Grand Prix distance.
And Lewis Hamilton, we were talking to him yesterday, and he was quite neurotic about taking in the right level of fluids and getting rid of the right level of fluids as well.
Yeah, you know what he was telling me earlier as well was the fact that they understand what went on during the first race. They take on board how much weight he lost, and then they compensate with taking on a certain amount of fluid. It's scientific stuff. It never was with me 10 years ago, but things are pretty different now.
And Charlie Whiting there and race organisers. The threat of rain, the possibility of thunderstorms must be in their minds as well. New rules concerning the pace car coming out. It could get very complicated. It could get very dramatic indeed. But the final preparations have been made. The drivers who have been trying to keep cool, trying to keep their fluid levels up, must now face the searing heat of this Malaysian Grand Prix, plus the concentration and the total commitment that this Sepang circuit demands. And we'll be back with the final countdown to the start in just a couple of minutes' time.
Ron, we heard you'd got a puncture this morning on your car on the way to the track. Is that maybe a bad omen?
No, I don't think so. It was a very slow puncture. I nearly made it to the circuit, but afraid not quite. So I had to change the wheel. Quick pit stop.
What about Lewis Hamilton? When we have got a look, he seems to be so cool. He's so young. It's just his second race. So what do you think about today?
Well, you know, he's been in motor racing now for 10 years, one way and the other, so he's experienced lots of starts. This is just another start. He's very calm about it, and you know, the most important thing is surviving the first lap. If he does that, he'll do a good job.
And what about the first draw? I mean, you bought a rocket starter, so how would you rate your chances against Kimi?
Well, we're obviously on the dirty side of the circuit, so but it is a long run down to the first corner. Hopefully we'll at least get there before Kimi. Maybe Massa, but who knows? We'll have to see. And of course, these pesky BMWs always seem to start well, so we'll just have to see.
Thank you. I wish you all the best for your team and for the race. Und jetzt zu Simon mit dem nächsten Formel-1-Fahrer.
Giancarlo, short question. You won the race here last year. How disappointed are you that you're not running with the same pace as you did here last year?
Last year was a great weekend for me, but this year, realistically, we cannot win the race, and it's going to be tough to score some points.
So points, that is the only goal you have, nothing more?
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much. Good luck the race. Just it's way hot, huh?
It's amazing. Really, it's amazing.
Isn't it an amazing thing that the pilots nowadays cope with the heat a lot better than they did, a couple of years ago?
Well, with this weather, it is the pilot that deserve the salary.
Well, you were complaining about at least one of your drivers at the last race. What do you expect from them this year?
I don't know. Let's see. We are just the beginning. We are not ready with the car. This is the major problem. But, you know, we need pushing hard. We need working.
You won the race here last year, so it is one of your best tracks. Still no chance to get more than, well, a couple of points?
Let's see how many couple of points, or maybe, let's see.
Thank you very much.
It's the challenge of Sepang. Fierce heat combined with a real racer's circuit. Sepang all set for round 2 of the Formula One World Championship, and your commentators for the Malaysian Grand Prix are Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome to the toughest race of the year, as we've been hearing. Soaring temperatures, chronic dehydration, a lot of long, high G-force corners really sap the energy. It's a supreme test of a driver's fitness. And to make things even more difficult this weekend, heavy rain, as we heard last night, has washed away all the rubber which had built up over free practice on Friday and yesterday's qualifying session. And so the track is now more abrasive. There's less grip out there. The tyres will therefore slide around more, and that means the tyre degradation will be huge this afternoon. And some teams will deal with it better than others. It will certainly add a considerable variable, I think, to the racing we're going to see this afternoon. And as David Coulthard was just telling us, different teams choosing to run either the soft tyre to start with or the hard tyre. Remind you that they have to use both specifications of Bridgestone tyre. It's a new rule for 2007. So as everybody will be doing a 2-stop race here this afternoon, they'll either do 2 stints on the hard and 1 on the soft, or the other way around. But they've got to use both of them, and I think there could be some gambles going right and some gambles going wrong here this afternoon. We've also got a threat of rain. We talk about it every year here in Sepang. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't. Of course, when it does, it is pretty spectacular. But just talking to 1 or 2 of the teams, they believe that there's a good chance of some rain an hour into this Grand Prix, which is around about lap 36, which intriguingly is around about the time of the second round of pit stops. So it could stir things up quite a bit. There's a rather disgruntled Rubens Barrichello. He'll be starting this Grand Prix from the pit lane, having been forced to change an engine. And so he was basically being moved to the back of the grid. He's going to use that for tactical reasons, refueling reasons, to start from the pit lane. Well, it certainly looks as though McLaren, with a lot of hard work back at the Woking factory, have moved themselves closer to Ferrari. Just take a look at that grid.
no specification tyres. The quicker tyres were the softer tyres, but they did not last. Don't last quite as well as the harder tyres. Something that they will be working on during the last couple of days. Raikkonen was the winner with 10 points. World Championship score. Second was Fernando Alonso. Third, Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, Lewis, everything looks good. Everything looks good. Okay, Lewis, if you could warm your brakes a bit more. Warm your brakes a bit more.
Are they okay?
Brakes are good, Lewis. Brakes are good. A yellow G1, yellow Golf 1, and remember a bite-point find before the grid.
I take it you can see him. Good work, Rubens. Now come on, settle down. People have all stopped, so we need to get into a rhythm. Feel free to have a go, Ralph. We haven't got much to lose. Rubens, we are sticking to plan. We're sticking to plan. The numbers don't add up for an extra stop. To mode 4 for 3 laps for the engine. Mode 4, please.
Understood. Understood.
You're live on air, Fernando. Just remember...
Great job, Fernando. Great job, Fernando. I'm so pleased for you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. It's been a tough weekend for everybody. We sweat a lot in this hot, but we did it. Fantastic job again. You deserve it. We are there. Thank you so much. Perfect weekend again. Thank you.
Lewis was P2, so he took a few valuable points from yours truly.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You deserve it, guys. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Very hard work all weekend.
The taste of victory for Fernando Alonso. A wonderful performance by him. A lot of hard work by the McLaren team as well to close this gap. And what a day. So there's the classification. 2 McLarens beat a Ferrari, a BMW, a Ferrari, a Renault, a Toyota. And as I say, Alex Wurz not far off the points, but far enough not to get one. Webber, he goes home empty-handed as well. Barrichello, again, the faster of the 2 Hondas this afternoon. He beat Button by just 0.7 of a second, but he was in front of him across the start-finish line. Sato in the Super Aguri, finishing just behind. Scott Speed, Ralf Schumacher, who was running in the top 8 in the early stages, but really faded. Has some sort of problem, I think, in a pit stop. Anthony Davidson some way behind teammate Sato. Liuzzi 17th for Toro Rosso and 18th Kubica.
Okay, Lewis, is everything okay?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
That's all right then.
Next step, I want to win. Doesn't matter if it's another next race, but sometime this year I'm going to have one.
That was interesting. Lewis Hamilton, sometime this season I'm going to have one. I want to win, he said. I'll tell you what, if he carries on driving like that, there's no doubt he will, and lots of them.
2 for 2 with podiums.
Welcome back to a sweltering hot Sepang, Malaysia, where Fernando Alonso has won the Grand Prix, has taken the lead in the Formula One World Championship. Kimi Raikkonen is second in the championship, but he couldn't get second place here today because Lewis Hamilton put in a heroic performance, having given Alonso the chance to break away early on. Alonso loves his wins. He celebrates them with ludicrous body moves, but he really does enjoy it. It's his 16th, I think it is, career victory. His first for the McLaren team. And it really is a tribute to everybody at Woking who's worked so hard to make this car competitive. After Australia, they were some way behind. And look how quickly they've closed the gap to Ferrari. And this is going to be one heck of an exciting championship.
Wir haben ihn schon auf dem Auto gesehen und wenn...
Well, look, essential.
Thank you very much. On the weighing machines.
I've got a towel.
Towel.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll see the first three Irishmen still very shortly. I have to say that they're looking remarkably fresh considering the heat out there. It's around 56 lap race. Team principal will join them.
I feel fine, I can't understand.
Are we ready? Okay, gentlemen.
Okay, well, here they come. Fernando Alonso, winner.
Yeah, we go.
Accompanied by Ron Dennis. Lewis Hamilton in second place. Kimi Räikkönen in third. Well done to Fernando Alonso, the great represented to him by Jan Anak Bahormat Datuk Seri Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Dan itu dia penyampaian hadiah untuk pemenang dapatkan oleh Badawi kepada juara pusingan kedua Grand Prix Malaysia Fernando Alonso. The winning constructor, Vodafone, McLaren Mercedes, represented by their team principal Ron Dennis, the trophy presented by Yangber Bahagia, thanks to Dr. Sri Muhammad Hassan Haitham, the president and CEO of Petronas. Bagaimana konfliknya tentang Dr. Sri Hassan Haitham, presiden dan CEO Petronas, dapatkan hadiah kepada Ron Dennis. To the second place driver, Lewis Hamilton, the trophy presented by Yang Bahormat Datuk Azalina Osman Saidi, the Minister of Youth and Sport. The third place driver, Kimi Räikkönen, the trophy presented by Yang Murnia Tunku Datuk Mustafa Tunku Mustafa, Chairman of the Automobile Association of Malaysia. Mustafa, pengurusi AEM. And as the podium party leads, the drivers will prepare to go for the start.
Fernando Alonso back to winning form, McLaren back to winning form as well, and the Formula One dream just gets better and better for Lewis Hamilton. The podium exaltation that we saw in Melbourne, we see again, but there's also the complete exhaustion of the examination of Sepang. All the analysis especially on what Hamilton has done today, coming right up.
So, Ferrari hat es geschafft und Leclerc noch. Oh weh. So, gerade noch gerettet. Das war also die stürmische Siegerehrung mit den ersten drei. Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Räikkönen. 4. Heidfeld, 5. Massa, 6. Fisichella, 7. Trulli, 8. Kovalainen, 9. nicht mehr erwartet nach seinem Getriebedefekt Alexander Wurz. Leider um einen Platz an den WM-Punkten vorbei. Damit hatte er in Kuala Lumpur jetzt schon alle Plätze in den 3 Starts, die er gehabt hat. Einmal 7., einmal 8. und einmal 9. Wir machen einen kurzen Boxenstopp in Wien, kommen dann mit den Interviews wieder und ich möchte Sie noch auf den heutigen Sport am Sonntag aufmerksam machen mit einem echten Fußballschlager, natürlich mit Salzburg gegen Sturm und mit dem neuesten vom Formel 1 Grand Prix aus Malaysia.
Have 2 podium finishes in his first 2 Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton, and scoring his team's first win in over a year, also for Vodafone McLaren Mercedes, Fernando Alonso. Fernando, a dream day for you, no doubt. You passed cars going into the first corner, looked in your mirrors, and there was Lewis behind you.
Yeah, it was, absolutely. I think, one of our chance to win the race was to be first after the first corner, and thanks to a very good start, thanks to the car, I was able to arrive side by side with Felipe into the first corner. I was in the inside part, so I managed to be first, and for sure to have my teammate second makes things easier for sure to open a gap.
And thereafter, from the outside, it looked to be a relatively easy race for you.
Well, it's always difficult here because I think the car keeps changing balance all through the stint. It's not the same with high fuel loads and new tires that low fuel loads and old tires. And over the weekend we never did more than 8 or 10 laps with the tires, so you are always a little bit concerned about how the tires will behave after 15 or 16 laps. So it's never easy, but for sure, to be never less than 7 or 8 seconds, for sure you are much more relaxed.
We saw Ron Dennis out on the pit wall signaling you in for your first stop. Was there any lack of communication going on there?
Yes, I didn't understand, but from lap 10 to the first stop I had no radio, so same as Kimi in Australia, and seems lucky thing to have in the race, because to the first stop I was lucky that I saw the pit board, I saw the arrow, so I come to the pit with a little bit some doubts if the guys were there or not. And I think Ron was telling me that the radio was off. Obviously I knew already, but I think they adjust something in the pit stop and then it works okay the rest of the race.
You were saying over the winter it might take a while to start winning races for the new team, but here you are, race 2, middle of the podium.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and I think it's a wonderful surprise what we achieved in so short time. I think I remember first test in December, only 1 day, and then new car in January with launching the car in Valencia in the middle of January, and a lot of work has been done inside the team, a lot of effort from everybody to be ready for the first race, but we never expect to be that competitive. So, I think it's something that is difficult to believe, but we have to say big thanks to everybody.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations to your teammate, Lewis Hamilton. What a fantastic drive. Difficult to know where to start, Lewis, but let's talk about the first few laps, your defence with Felipe Massa behind you, and indeed the first corner.
Yes, that was the most difficult race I've ever had. I think to see 2 Ferraris behind you, 2 red blobs in the mirrors, it's knowing that they're slightly lighter than you, and and are slightly quicker than you, it's very, very difficult to keep them behind. And Felipe had a couple of moves. I think he tried into turn 4 a couple of times, but fortunately I was able to trick him into outbraking himself and and get my car stopped. And it was very fortunate that I was able to cut across and get back in front of him, and to the point where he eventually went off. So I apologize for that, but at the end of the day we got the points, so it doesn't really matter. And then I had Kimi hunting me down for most of the race, and I just can't explain to you how tough it was. It's extremely hot in the cockpit, sweating a lot. I ran out of water, so halfway through the race I didn't have enough water, and so it was tricky. It was tricky, and it was getting hotter and hotter throughout the race. And the last stint, it would have been nice to be ahead, a bit further ahead of Kimi, but I had to keep pushing to the last lap, and that's what I did. I didn't make any mistakes. I think the team did a fantastic job this weekend preparing the car. They work extremely long hours, I think longer than most other teams. And also back to the factory, you've done a fantastic job, so well done.
Well, you had a brilliant middle stint to the race too, set fastest race lap. How did the car at that phase compare with later on when Kimi was putting pressure on you? What was it like inside the cockpit?
Well, I had radio communication with the team. They told me that Kimi had pitted and I had passed, so I couldn't see him in my mirrors, and it was difficult to see the gap on the board. I was often looking at the gap towards Fernando, and I noticed it was quite big, so I sort of made a mistake and thought that was Kimi. But I later found that Kimi was only sort of 6 seconds behind, and they told me he was catching me half a second a lap. So I had to just bite my tongue, really dig as deep as I could with with preserving the amount of energy I had, because it was so tough, and really just try to stay in front and pull the car to the end and be as consistent as possible. And I'm overwhelmed.
Absolutely fantastic drive. Congratulations. Kimi, turning to you, you must be very happy after the way the weekend's gone for you to be here on the podium for the second successive race.
Yeah, of course I'm happy to get some points, but we're a bit disappointed how we end up the race. Whole weekend being quite difficult, but I think so we needed to compromise too many things and lost too much really speed on those things. But it was one of those weekends that we needed to do what was most important and try to get as many points as we could. Just didn't have speed enough today, and couldn't do much more.
Well, you had a terrific spectator position for that battle between Lewis and your teammate Felipe Massa. Talk us through that from your point of view. You nearly passed Felipe. Well, you did pass Felipe eventually.
Yeah, in the end when he had a mistake, but unfortunately I didn't have enough speed on a straight line to try to challenge either of them. When I got behind Lewis, I got close to him, but I didn't have as much speed as Felipe had, so he could always challenge him, but I was not able to do that. I always try to get close to them on the place, because I know that they will have a fight, and I thought that maybe I can get past one of them, and in the end it worked out, but unfortunately it didn't go past Lewis. But I think so we did the best what we could, and at least we scored important points, so we need to make everything 100% right next race.
It looked like your car was much more competitive in the closing stint than the middle stint of the race.
Yeah, it wasn't difficult to try, but it was just not fast enough. I think so. We know the reasons why we were not quick this race, but unfortunately, like I said, we were in a position that we couldn't do anything else. So I think so. Hopefully, next race we can turn the tables and fight for win again.
Thank you very much, Kimi. And finally,
Thanks.
Returning to you, Fernando. The close battle is now upon us. Ferrari versus McLaren. It couldn't be closer. And here, race 2, we've had the second winner in 2 races. How do you see it now developing the season?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we still need to work a little bit, especially in the race pace. I think with Felipe having a good start, better than our start, and keeping first position, maybe it was extremely difficult to follow their pace in the race. So I think we have not to confuse ourselves on that. But we are much closer than Australia. We have some develops in the car and some improvements coming very shortly. So we should be right on them, I think, very shortly. And I think yeah, it will be a very close fight, but I think our team has the potential to do it, and I have 100% confidence we can do it.
Congratulations. Now, if we can have some words from you in your own language, starting with Fernando in Spanish.
It's been a fantastic Malaysian Grand Prix for McLaren. A 1-2, their first race victory since the end of 2005. The win going to Fernando Alonso, but the performance of the day, once again, coming from second place Lewis Hamilton and Mark. He got our attention in Australia. What more have we learned about Lewis today?
Well, it's just maturity. Such a guy with an old head on young shoulders and composure like I've never seen before. Second Grand Prix, second position again. Third in the first one. What does he do the next race? I mean, we've all got our fingers crossed. I think we're going to go and get a win by the way he's going.
Well, he was talking before the race about his concerns about what might happen at the first corner. He was outstanding at the first corner in Melbourne. It's the others who ought to be worried now.
Well, the thing is, Steve, no one's told Lewis, that be worried about the other guys, because he's not worried about them one little bit. He tucks underneath the Ferraris going in there. These took him by storm there, and the thing that he needed to do, he did exactly for his teammate Alonso and for the team. He got in front of those two red cars, and that actually killed their race.
What is the quality that he's got there? Is it composure? Is it a sense of opportunism? Is it out-and-out courage, or what?
I think he's got an element of bravery. He's got opportunistic sort of outlook, and he's going into that first corner committed, but he's aware, fully aware, and he just takes that opportunity and makes it count.
Well, what we saw from him after that was absolute composure as he came under pressure from both Ferraris, and it was Felipe Massa who got rattled.
Well, Massa shouldn't really be getting rattled. That is the problem now. You've got Massa who should be attending to a World Championship for Ferrari, enough seasons under his belt to know what he's up to, and Lewis just takes it all in his stride. Here we go, Massa tucks down the inside, way too deep, gets it all wrong, crosses up. Lewis just says, thank you very much, sir, I'll go back by you again. It's all too difficult for Massa to achieve, and it's all too easy for Lewis. It's just, again, composure is the main word for today, I think, in Lewis's performance.
All in all, it was an awful day for Ferrari, largely wrecked by one man, Lewis Hamilton.
Exactly that. He got in front of him at the start, he killed their race, the tyres got heavily used, the cooling got heavily consumed there in terms of what they needed, and they just didn't get the job done. They didn't look like they were going to win the race, and I personally felt they were.
This win means so much for McLaren. They did have a few worries, and Fernando Alonso, when he came in for his first pit stop, we saw Ron Dennis looking very animated, unusually.
Well, Ron Dennis has got himself into a situation because he knew that this team was about to win its first Grand Prix for over a season, and he made sure that there was no mistakes made. And Alonso, this not take nothing away from the world champion, he just did everything right. He was 100%, fought this race.
Okay, we'll hear from Ron, who's got his composure back. We can hear from him right now.
Well, Ron, what grit, what determination, what pressure Lewis showed. Fernando, obviously, it's his win, but how about that last few laps from Lewis?
Well, we kept him informed. He kept his cool. We knew it would be a little difficult on the prime tyre at the last stint, but I think he just did a fantastic job. I'm very pleased with our strategy, and it was a solid win by Fernando. No one gifted us anything. It's going to be a great World Championship, and we're very happy we're leading both.
Do you feel that McLaren have now closed that gap to Ferrari? Are they the form team?
McLaren are back. McLaren, Mercedes, all the components are back in where they need it, and that's to go and win more Grand Prix and mount a World Championship attack. And I think Ferrari are going to be very aware of that, Steve. They know that the pressure is on.
Well, that's probably the feeling through the rest of the field. Let's check all the reactions from the leading drivers today, including race winner Fernando Alonso.
We were expecting to see Ferrari very, very competitive, but seems that in the race our pace was enough to fight with them. Thanks to the start being first and second, we were able to keep those positions. So, it's a dream come true for sure this race.
To have two Ferraris behind you is definitely what we want, but I probably don't want them to be that close to me next time, because I'm telling you, that was so hard to keep them behind for one. But eventually, once they pitted, I could relax a little bit, but I still had to push. And I'm really happy I got the fastest lap of the race. I just found out, and so I couldn't be happier.
What was your mindset in the last few laps, trying to hunt down Lewis? Did you think he might close the door on you? Did you have to be careful, or were you just going for it?
No, if I would have got any chance, for sure I would have tried, but unfortunately we ran out of the laps and couldn't really get close enough.
And of course the other important reaction must come from Anthony Hamilton, Lewis's father, and you knew what he was capable of, but how much does this young man continue to surprise you as well?
Oh, it was an absolutely proud moment. He felt good this morning again, and I knew we were going to be in trouble again today. It was all a matter of just getting around the first couple of bends and keeping the car on the circuit, and to be quite honest, had we finished fourth today, I'd have been absolutely happy.
But there's absolutely nothing defensive about the way Lewis approaches the first corners of these Grand Prix, is there?
No, he's totally self-confident and believes in himself, and he's just so determined. It's fantastic.
So your feelings when you saw him get past at the first corner, and the manner in which he held off the Ferraris after that must have made you very proud.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it? Absolutely cool. I mean, you know, that's the sort of thing with Lewis. You know, he's not easy to fluster, and in fact, I don't think he gets flustered at all, because he mentally prepares himself, and you know, he was ready, and I think what he was actually thinking about was trying to get the first place.
He's had a quiet time since Melbourne to try to absorb what he did there, and he's got to do the same off the back of that. But of course, it's Bahrain next weekend. At some stage, he's got to really come to terms with the sense of expectation which is growing so much back home.
Well, it is, isn't it? But I think, you know, the good thing with Lewis is he's still a, you know, feet on the ground kid, and you know, when he gets back home, he just won't believe, you know, what's going on. But for now, you know, he's happy. He's missing his brother Nicholas, and he's missing, you know, some home cooking, and he's looking forward to getting back after Bahrain.
And from the McLaren point of view, absolute delight with what he's produced for the team so far.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, probably like me, they're all in shock.
I'm sure not. May it continue.
Yes, thank you
Anthony,
very much.
thanks very much indeed. Let's check all the details. A fantastic McLaren 1-2, their first race victory since the end of 2005. Victory for Fernando Alonso over Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Raikkonen in third, and Nick Heidfeld holding off Felipe Massa on a very disappointing day indeed for Ferrari. Giancarlo Fisichella in sixth, Jarno Trulli in seventh, and Heikki Kovalainen will be delighted with his eighth place after all the frustrations of his debut in Australia. But the Drivers' Championship, Fernando Alonso back on top, 2 points ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Hamilton in third, a first and second so far for Alonso for his new team, McLaren. And in the Constructors' Championship, 2 races gone, and McLaren haven't been off the podium yet, and they lead that Constructors' Championship by 9 points from Ferrari. And finally, Mark, in terms of what he's achieved today, how important is it that the next Grand Prix for Lewis Hamilton is just 1 week away?
Well, it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic for all of us. We've got a British driver and a great British car, and I think third time lucky for Lewis. I think he can get it done.
OK, we'll have further reaction from this Malaysian Grand Prix, though, later this evening, after midnight, in fact, in our highlights programme, which is repeated on ITV4 tomorrow evening. The next Formula One, the Bahrain Grand Prix next weekend. Your viewing time's getting a little bit more civilised as the championship moves closer to Europe. 11:30 in the morning for both qualifying on Saturday and the race itself on Sunday, with all the highlights later. But for Formula One now, it's off to Bahrain with McLaren, the team in form, and Lewis Hamilton now very definitely a huge star of the future.